This is Dan Lawson with the Alliance for American Manufacturing. Today we're in Lewiston, Maine, talking to Matt Schlobolm, the Executive Director of the AFL-CIO here in the state. Matt, can you give us a little background on your history and what you know about these trade cases?
Sure. I've been working for the Maine AFL-CIO for the last 3 years. Prior to that, I worked for 5 years as the coalition director of the Maine Fair Trade Campaign. We were a coalition of labor and community, small business, environmental groups working to change our trade policy. And we were operating, from an assumption that our trade policy in this country has not served workers, it has not served small business, it has not served our communities, and it needs to change, and it needs to change in a fundamental way. And we've had, unfair rules in the global economy and unfair trade rules for a long time. And until we change those, it's going to be really hard to ensure prosperity and healthy communities and economies in Maine and in this country and really around the world, because these trade policies are hurting workers everywhere, and they need to change. So what we would do is get a lot of different people working together to try and work for fair trade policies to change the rules so that our communities really can thrive and prosper, and that we can keep good paying jobs here in the state of Maine.
And Matt, what have you seen in the last couple of years, the impact of these trade policies on the manufacturing base of Maine?
Oh, it's devastated. We've seen mill after mill shutting down. We've seen, companies moving south and really taking advantage of unfair trade policies where they can, move across borders and then have, complete unfettered free access to our market with no real regulations are in place. We have the biggest, most desired market to export to in the world. The least we can do is put some fair rules in place so that if you want to export to our market, you need to play by basic standards and follow labor standards, follow environmental standards, and create a set of trade rules that that actually work for everybody. It's not that hard to do. It's really about who wins and who loses and who gets to make the rules. And for a long time, the biggest, most powerful companies in the world have been winning at the expense of the rest of us as they pit workers against one another and and push through a set of trade policies that have just clobbered Maine communities. And we've seen it from the top of the state to the bottom. Paper mills and manufacturing facilities shutting down, and the thing that there's the initial batch of jobs in that mill, which is huge. Those people, they're making good wages, they have good benefits, they're able to support their families, they're able to send their kids to school, they're able to keep their dollars circulating in the community. So those job losses are a huge impact on those people, obviously, on their communities, on their families. There's a whole host of problems that we all know come with unemployment and just those changes. But there's also then just this massive ripple effect where, every job that's lost impacts and can contribute to the loss of at least another 7 jobs in Maine. So, if you lose 150 jobs at a small manufacturing facility that goes down, you're talking about potentially, another 1,000 jobs that are in the balance that could be lost that go down with it. And that, that in small Maine towns is huge. It's, this is not a big state, and there's not that many good jobs out there. So when one of these places, goes down, that's the backbone of the economy, it's devastating, and it just, turns people's lives upside down.
Well, in looking at the 2 mills that this case revolves around here in Maine, you have the Sappy Mill in Skowhegan, right, and the New Page Mill in Rumford. Those are 2 major employers in the counties that they're in. Right. What do you think the impact would be if either of those mills went down?
Yeah. The 2 counties those mills are in, there are not a lot of other jobs out there, and there are basically no other jobs on scale with the wages and benefits and retirement security that come with those paper mill jobs. So if either of those mills went down, it would devastate those communities, and that's not that's an understatement. It would be very, very, very difficult. We've seen what just the challenges that folks getting laid off in Jay and other places have faced. But these are larger mills. They're the backbone of those economies. They've got all sorts of offshoots with people that are delivering there. The mom and pop store that's serving lunch and selling newspapers and basic goods to all the people that come through. All the money that circulates in the economy from these things. So if those go down, you're going to see those economies go down, basically. There's a few other things out there, but those are the backbones of those economies.
Now, Matt, if you had a chance to talk to the group that is going to decide this case. If you could say anything to them, what would your message be to them?
I mean, my message would be just, think about the people that you need to look in the eye in Rumford, in Skowhegan, in Madison, and the surrounding towns who work in these places, who support their family, who've been going to work for 25 years, working very hard, making these companies profitable, supporting their communities. Think about looking them in the eye when you make this decision, because that's who's on the chopping block here, and their families and their kids and their communities, and the ability of the hospital to function, the ability of the school to have the revenue it needs to have books for kids. I mean, this is basic fundamental stuff. So I would just say, keep that in mind as you make this decision. That's who you should be thinking about. Those people that work there, their kids who want a better future, the teachers that work in the schools who need to be paid, the nurses in the hospitals. I mean, it's bigger than just the jobs in the mill. It's about an entire region, an entire state, really, because the ripple effects impact this whole state. I mean, we're not that big, and those counties would be devastated. We've got around 10% unemployment now, and people are hurting out there. So, any decision that's going to, negatively impact the good-paying jobs that exist in this state needs to be considered very, very carefully, and needs to think about, the people that would be impacted. And all we're saying here is let's have a fair set of rules. I mean, we want workers in China and workers in Indonesia to have the same ability to improve themselves. I mean, of course, but they shouldn't. These countries shouldn't be able to rig the rules, and companies shouldn't be able to rig the rules so that people are getting hurt and people are getting squeezed. And I think we can create a global economy that lifts up everybody, and where we have good jobs in Maine, and where we start to have labor rights in these other countries, and people can lift themselves up. But if the rules are rigged, and and people are manipulating their currencies, and doing all sorts of other very clever things, we need to address that and take it on and make sure that that people can survive here and people can survive there. I mean, I think that's what people want.
Matt, I want to thank you for your time today. I appreciate all your comments.
Hey, my pleasure. Good luck.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.